Hello and welcome to TrackVia's Getting Started with TrackVia with our presenter, Logan Copass. We're going to get started today with a little bit of housekeeping. So you are in listen only mode, so please stay in that while we're doing the presentation so everyone can listen. If you do have questions, please do put them in the chat window. We will try to answer those live if we can, and those that we don't, we will try to follow up with an email. This webinar is being recorded and we will supply that to you within 48 hours after the presentation is over. We do realize we scheduled this for a little bit long, but we do have a plan to end this right around 11:45. We'll stay on a little longer if questions are going, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we will try to end exactly at that 11:45 Mountain Time goal there. Sorry about that. With that information, I'm going to hand it over to Logan and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Michelle. As she mentioned, my name is Logan Copass. I am a solutions consultant here at TrackVia. So just to go over some key topics that we will be covering today, we'll be covering who is TrackVia, also what is low code, and that's really kind of the technology space that TrackVia resides in. And we will go over signing up for our free trial and also how to get started creating your first TrackVia app using our new product feature, Fast Track. So just to provide some context and background, TrackVia, we were founded in 2006 and we are headquartered here in Denver, Colorado. Again, to provide more context, the term low code was coined in 2005, so we really see ourselves as kind of pioneers in this low code space. We have around 75 employees and we supply over 350 plus customers. I also like to put this over here to the right, a lot of our customer kind of logos, not to say, hey, look, we have a ton of customers, but really to show all the different industries we cover. And they all use TrackVia for different solutions, and that really is the beauty of low code, as we will continue to define here later. So what is low code? Dictionary definition is it's software that provides a development environment used to create applications through graphical user interfaces and configuration instead of traditional hand-coded computer programming. And that's really just a fancy way of saying that we have this environment that you can stand up applications and workflow processes without having to have a technical background or computer programming knowledge. So we have this spectrum here at the bottom that really kind of defines our lightweight low-code tools and more of our developer toolkits in the low-code space. So here on the lightweight side, we have Excel, right? And the problem with the lightweight tools is they aren't very scalable. You have a lot of siloed data, and as your business and operations and organization grow, you need something a little more robust. And then on the developer toolkit side, we have OutSystems and Appian, and these are, very robust low-code tools, but they do require more technical background to really implement within the organization. TrackVia sits right in the middle and is kind of more of a true low-code tool, as we are able to stand up applications, with no coding, fast and efficiently, like your lightweight tools. But it also has a lot more scalability for your organization and enterprise needs. So who is low code for? Easy answer, everyone, right? Business users utilize low code because they need more efficient day-to-day processes and automations, right? And they don't need the technical background to either wait on IT or bother IT. And then our IT professionals also like utilizing low code because they can really build out these business needs for their organizations quickly, efficiently, and easily. We all know how backed up IT professionals get, so they love low code tools to solve problems fast. And just touching on that, what is low code for and who's it for, right? We hear this term citizen development come up a lot, and citizen development basically describes the ability for a user, the citizen developer, to create these applications without that technical background or coding expertise. And they can do this significantly faster and at a fraction of the cost than paying for, big developments and point solutions. And just to emphasize here, we are a gold partner with Project Management Institute for their Citizen Developer Partner Program. Feel free to go check them out and see what citizen development is all about. And just before we jump into the getting started with TrackVia, I would like to highlight some customer spotlights, right? As I mentioned before, you know, we have a variety of customers that use us for all different workflows and different processes, right? We have KSI, and they do field service inspections and safety workflows. You know, it's very easy for them to configure and stand up quick, and easy for their end users out in the field to use. And they have about 500 plus users within the environment. And for Las Vegas Sands Corporation, completely different use case, but they have a compliant anti-money laundering workflow platform. And this allows them to process control and have real-time visibility to be able to report on suspicious activity that goes on in their casinos. And then we have North Face, right? They have a workflow on top of a PLM system, and they had a 28-day custom quote process that was able to be cut down to 7 days. And then we have finally Honeywell here, and they basically have a streamlined procurement and supply chain workflow, and they have had about 8,000 hours of time savings. And to provide a little bit more context of that ROI, their working capital increased by $8 to $10 million. So what we'll be touching on today is 3 ways to build in TrackVia App. So we have the opportunity to build from scratch. We have the ability to import pre-existing data and spreadsheets. I will also be going over that. And then we will be starting out our application using our new product feature, Fast Track. So with that, I will go ahead and jump into the demo. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with setting up a free trial with us. So this is our home page here. Very easy to do. Up in the top right corner here, we just select trial. And you provide a company email. We'll go ahead and give this webinar 2. I'm not a robot, and start trial now. So instant free trial, really fast, easy startup for you to get started. So a couple things happen here. Once I was done with that, I received this email. Your trial account is ready for activation. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go and set up a password. I will do this off screen. And now I can start my trial. So here we have what goes on, right? So it's starting to create your application tables, and it's starting to set up that environment, you know, getting the tools that we will be using and showcasing today for building out an application, such as our dashboards, tables, and forms. So it takes about 30 seconds to a minute to get the trial environment ready, because we do have 3 pre-built applications for you once you start your trial to go ahead, experiment, play around, and see what kind of a fully fledged application looks like before giving a crack at it yourself. Still loading here a little bit. And now it's taken us to the home page. So just to kind of give you a little bit of orientation to the screen here as it's loading up, we have a company logo in the trial. It says Pluto's Norway here in the upper left. And this really is just to show you that this is customizable, right? So here we have a welcome video at the start. I'm going to go ahead, I'm ready to explore. But this is to show you that this is all customizable, because it's really supposed to be your application, you know, your process. We're not trying to make you fit your process to a point solution or software. Rather, we're providing adaptable, scalable software to fit your process. So you can have your company name, your company URL, and color scheme. And to the right, we have the app drop-down menu. So here, like I said, are 3 pre-built applications. We have our welcome app and then project management and quality control. Feel free to jump into there and see what a robust application can look like in TrackVia. And then right below, we have the admin toolbar. So these are the tools I'll be using for standing up our application here shortly. And then underneath, we have our welcome app dashboard. So we have a couple things like that welcome video that showed up upon arrival. We have TrackVia University, which is free on-demand training to basically get you acclimated and accustomed to the software. And then we have our TrackVia knowledge base. And again, it's more supplemental information and tools used to learn. Maybe you don't want to watch the videos. We have a lot of information on getting started, our tables, view charts, forms, and a lot more information on basically the platform and stuff that I won't be able to get to today because there's just so much at your disposal. And then we have some helpful videos and demos, and then request a demo, right? Feel free to request a demo with me or one of our other solution consultants, or even just some time for us to help you with your trial and building out your application. And then to the right here, we have our settings, right? Our profile, my account. If I go in, you can see our logos and colors, right? Where you can customize. We have some advanced customization. I like to have these dashboard tabs turned on. And then I'll go ahead and turn off this automatically log users out for this demonstration. But as you can see, we have more security settings. We have single sign-on and API access, right? So we have the ability to communicate with other platforms and other software that your company might already be implementing and utilizing. So with that, let's start building our application. So I'm going to sign in real quick on a mobile device here next to me. And now I'm going to drag this screen over. And we have our app, right? So again, we're just in the welcome app on this mobile device here next to me. And as you can see, we have a native iOS and Android app. Basically, this means that we get to utilize the full functionality of your mobile device, like talk to text, the camera, location capture, and we also are allowed to do offline capabilities like KSI performing those field services. They may be in areas where they don't have service or Wi-Fi, so they can still continue their work operations and functions without being connected. So what we're going to do is, let me show you the form we'll be using today. So I'll be using this patient intake form, uploading it with our new product feature, Fast Track. And that is going to start out and build out the foundation of our application just in a matter of seconds. So if I come back to TrackVia and I click Fast Track, I'll do tap to upload. And let's select that patient intake form. So now this works from uploading straight from our mobile device, but also you can take a picture of a printed out form next to you and it will automatically digitize that form for you. So I will now go ahead and click transform. So now it is building out our form. And as you can see, we have all the fields that is picking up from that form, right? The patient intake form. And the software is intuitively telling you picking the right data fields with the type of title that is given in the field. So notice our date of birth is already selected as a date field for us. Email address, already an email field. And if you do want to make some alterations like to zip code here, instead of single line, maybe I want that as a number field, right? Click done, and now that's updated as a number field. So from there, I'll go ahead and transform. And now we can add this to an existing app, but for today, let's build a completely new app. And we'll call this our patient intake app. And we'll complete the form. And now it has already set up our first dashboard. It has already set up our first view, set up the table, and set up a starting patient intake form for us. all on the front end, just from taking a picture and uploading that form, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take the mobile device away and do a quick refresh up here. Again, everything we do on the mobile side is automatically done on the website as well, and vice versa. You're not having two separate code bases for both your web and your mobile experience. And here we have our patient intake app. So as you can see, it already has a dashboard for us, and it already has that form on the front, right? So let's go ahead and look at what it's done in our table editor. So I'm going to use our admin toolbar and come into tables here and open up the table editor. So now I want to do a couple things here. So first I'm going to give this a different name, just make it patient for our table. And I want to go ahead and, now that we've digitized this form, maybe I want to have an auto counter here for our patient ID, so we can easily access that on the digital side of things. And I'm going to also add an extra date field for it to be the date and time of our visit, so we can gather that information as well. And then the last thing I want to do on this table is I want to make a more meaningful record ID. So when somebody's looking at the record ID, it gives them a little bit better information on what they're clicking into. So I'll do the patient ID. I'll do a dash as a little separator to make it look nice. And we'll do our first name and last name of the patient. Click done, and now I'll save that table. So now we have our fully fledged patient table. So in the next part, what I'm going to do is now we make a hospital table, right? So we can gather information on the patients and which hospitals they visit. So for our second table, we'll go ahead and make a hospital table. And I'm going to do that using another way to build out applications within TrackVia, is by uploading Excel spreadsheets. So I have this simple Excel spreadsheet here. We have our hospital ID, name, type, phone number, the longitude, latitude, and some specialties. And I'm going to go ahead and import that into the system. So if I do this drop down on tables, I want to do a new table, and not from scratch. I want to do it from import. So we'll call this one hospitals. We'll give the singular, and the plural will fill out for us. And now let's upload that hospitals file. So now it's giving us an import file preview here. Everything looks good. We do also have error reporting. If something happens or a row is, you can choose to reject the row or set the problem field to blank, but it will give you another CSV Excel file that gives you the information on the error and which field is causing the error. So I'll click next, and now we have the option to map our data. So the same way with Fast Track, right? It's intuitively picking the data type based on what's in our fields, right? So we know this is a number field, single line. I like that our hospital type's a drop down, phone number, here number, thank for location. We'll go ahead and change this to a location field, and checkboxes is fine for specialties. So when I click next, is now importing that file. You see that we have 0 errors, and let's go ahead and view our table. So here's all our information, right? And maybe we want to do a couple things to clean it up after this import, like maybe get rid of these commas for the phone number and maybe have a more meaningful record ID again. So let's go back to our table editor. Now for here, we'll change our record ID. Let's do hospital ID, and then we will do the hospital name. And then make that adjustment here for phone number. Let's do no separator and save. So now we have our tables fully fledged, built out, and gathering the information that we want them to gather. So now let's move over to our table relationships. So the platform is built on a relational database, right? So once we have the information and know the information that we want to gather, we want to build out these relationships, right? So I'll go to our relationship list view, and we want to think about this in a parent to child relationship. So we know that a hospital can have many patients, therefore making hospitals our parent table and then patients our child table. So now I'll go ahead and create that relationship and switch to our ERD view to provide a visual representation of what this looks like. So you can visually see your database structure, right? So we have hospital here has many patients, that parent-child relationship. So now that we have the information we want to gather on the tables and the necessary relationships stood out, now we want to wait for that end user to input this information, right? So that's when we head to our forms. So because we did this through Fast Track, we already have a form started out for our patients. So let's dive into that real quick and see what we can do. So here it gives us some options as well, more app cues of building more powerful forms. So let's try it out now. As you can see, it has all our necessary information, but still looks a little bland, but great starting point, saves a lot of time, especially as you have larger and more complex forms. But let's go ahead and give this a title. Say patient info, and give it a nice background color to be more aesthetically pleasing for our end user. Maybe we need to move some of these around. We can shorten these fields. We have access to some widgets, so we can put spacers so it looks clean on the end user's end. And now let's add those fields that we added later. So as you can see, we have our relationship field, right? So we want to tie these patients to the hospitals, that parent table, right? So I'm going to go ahead and drag this on here, click done, and now we can gather that hospital information. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag this to the top, reorder some of these. And then let's also add that date and time of visit. And then just to kind of show we can do a couple more things, right? So we can put, I know some of them we can put titles, right? So we can have that text area because one of the titles on the form, right, was emergency contact info. Click done, and we'll drag that up above the emergency contact info, the relationship, right? And we can put a horizontal line, again, just cleaning up that end user. So we can go into this as much and make it look as pretty as we want for that end user. But for there, I'll go ahead and stop for now and click save on our patient intake form. So now that we have that, we need forms for our hospitals. So again, everything's separated by tables because it's a table relational database. And for best practices, when I implement a new table, I like to have a new form and a summary form. So for hospitals, let's start with our new hospital form. Let's go ahead and give this a title again, hospital info, and give a nice background color to it as well. And let's start putting in the information that we want the end user to input. So maybe the hospital name, the type, their phone number. We'll stretch this out. The ICU beds they have available, their specialties, and then the location. And we can also incorporate various form rules as well, right? So we can have, default values. We can make this field required, so someone can't move on to the next step unless they require it. We can also do things like barcode scanning, so they can scan a barcode and the information is immediately populated for them. A bunch of different ways that you can have interactive forms for the end user. Show high rules as well. But for now, we'll leave it as this. I'll go ahead and click save. Now I want to think about our hospital summary form. So if I do save as, this basically makes a copy of the form for me. I will call this hospital summary, save as. And now for this one, our summary form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a view section. So now I can add from our child views information from the child table onto this form. So when somebody clicks into some hospital information, they could see all this pertinent information, and they can also see and keep track of how many patients they're taking in and then run calculations from that to have more oversight, like patients daily, what is their common symptoms they're coming up with, so on and so forth. So I'll click save on that. And now we have our tables and forms stood out as well as the relationships between them. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to jump into our roles and permissions. And we have very robust roles and permissions, right? Because not everybody is going to have access to the same data, right? A manager may only have, analytics and managerial things that they need to take care of, where the employee, you don't want them to see other employees' information or the manager's information, right? So we can limit those users, and you can make as many roles as you need within the application. So every app starts out with the default role. I'll go ahead and make the adjustments in the default role for today. And again, as I was talking about that limited user, right, you can really delineate what dashboards they have access to, the forms they have access to, and the views. Are they an interactive user? Can they only look at data, not interact with it? And then we have our app admins, right? So this is somebody that you want to have access to everything. You want them to be able to build the applications, and you also want them to be able to make adjustments for concerns that a limited user may bring them. So for this demonstration, I will continue to remain as an app admin, and I'm going to go ahead and put myself into this role. So I need to assign myself the dashboard that was created for me. And since we made those new forms and we have these default views, I want to give myself access to these forms. So whenever I'm creating a new record, I want it to be a new hospital form, right? But if I access anything from a different view, I want it to be that summary. And I'll go ahead and do the same thing for patients down here. Give them access to both these views and take them to the patient intake form. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. So now we've given myself access and kind of building out that workflow too based on the access we give each user in the role. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our flows tool. So we'll go ahead and create a new flow. And on surface, it looks like, a BPI tool, but I like to think about this as a process builder, right? So what process do we want to take the user through? So we want to take them through our patient intake process, right? So let's call this patient intake submittal. And what we want to do is we want them to start, and when they click into the button, we want them to fill out the patient intake form. So they will be adding data to the record. So we'll call this patient intake step, and they will be doing it through the patient intake form. And you can have custom save labels here, again, tailoring that end user experience, right? Whether based on certain decisions, does it say accept or does it say reject? For this, we'll have it say submit. And then once they fill out this patient intake form, we want them to then exit the process or exit the flow. So we'll create an end. So I know very simple workflow process today, but we do, have access for decision points, and you can make it as robust as you need. But we'll go ahead and save flow. So now that we have this flow built out, I want to give the end user access. So let's put it on the dashboard. Now we have this patient intake form dashboard that was automatically generated for us using Fast Track. Let's go into this. Maybe I just want to call this the patient intake dashboard. And since we have that workflow that is taking them to this form, maybe we don't need it on this dashboard right here. So I'll get rid of it. We'll condense this and make room for our workflow button. So now we have that patient intake submittal workflow that we can put them through. And we also have other things, widgets, right? You can put embedded websites, web links if you need to send them outside of the application, as well as various shortcuts to maybe, different views within the application. And you can use the shortcut for different websites too. But for now, we'll have just those things on our dashboard, and I will save dashboard. So now let's test out our flow, see if it works. So we have our patient intake form that we built out. Hospitals, let's go ahead and choose Children's Hospital, Denver. We'll give the date and time of our visit. We'll do today at, we'll go ahead and do noon for when I'm done with this webinar, and fill out some information here. Auto-populate some of it. email address is our address here located in downtown Denver. And obviously you can go through and submit as many as you need. But I'll go ahead and click submit. And now it worked. It showed up in our patient intake form view. So that is kind of the workflow piece of it for there. But we're very much still working with a lot of our default views. So let's make some new views that may be more intuitive for the end user. Let's start with our patients. And what I like to do is I like to make a summary view of each, for each table. So let's start with patient summary. I will get rid of some of these system generated fields. Some of these questions maybe we don't need, remove, we'll save and finish. Now we have our summary view. Maybe we want that to be a pencil icon, save. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new view, and let's call this our patient scheduler. I'll click save and finish. And now what we can do is we can turn this into a calendar view. So we'll do it for the date and time of visit. And on the date and time of visit, we'll set it to current date and time. We can apply various filters. So maybe you only want the patient intakes for Children's Hospital Denver, right? We can apply those filters. But for now, we'll keep it as all hospitals and no filter. And we'll say that we want a calendar view. And the fields we want to show, maybe we want first name, date of birth, and their insurance carrier, sure. So save settings. And now we have a calendar view. Let's also add this to our dashboard. And we'll add our patient scheduler. So now we have our patient scheduler here, and we can see which days are occupied and how many patients each day. And it can be interactive as well too. So maybe that's overloaded. We can reschedule them to Friday, and we can set up various notification rules too. So if I reschedule someone to Friday, I can have it send them an email and say, hey, you know, we had to reschedule you for Friday because we're fully booked Wednesday, so on and so forth. So we have instant email notifications as well within the platform. So now that we have those views for our patients, let's make some more views for our hospitals. Maybe we want some more analytics insights. So let's start with our hospital summary view. Get rid of the system generated fields, save and finish. Now we have our hospital summary. So from here, I will do create a new view, and let's do hospital locations. So if I save and finish that, I can take this view option here, and now I can have a map view. So now I can see where all my hospitals are located, and it be interactive. So I can click into each hospital. So click save. And let's go ahead and make another view for here, and let's do some analytics, right? Let's see ICU bed availability for each of our hospitals. And what I'll do is I'll go over to this format section, and I'll click these to take us to our chart types. So now we'll do just a simple bar graph, and I only want the ICU bed availability information. So I'll save and finish. So we have a lot of great new views. Why don't we make a new dashboard for those views? And we'll call this our hospital analytics dashboard. And let's go ahead and add those views, the location and the ICU bed availability. And we'll stretch this out and save the dashboard. So now that we've created all these new views and dashboards, right, we need to permit ourselves accordingly to those views and dashboards. So you'll notice as you get building in TrackVia, as you start adding more forms, more views, right, you kind of go back and forth between all these tools up here to build out these workflows, to stand out these applications. So now we're back in roles to assign ourselves the necessary dashboards and assign ourselves the necessary views. So I'll do all our hospital views that we just created. And when we click into them, we don't want to take them to the new hospital or default form. We want to take them to that hospital summary. So if I click save, what I can do is I can go back out to our dashboard, our hospital analytics, and we can click into these because these analytics are all interactive, right? We can zoom in and out on there, but I can even click into this, Children's Hospital Denver. I can see all the necessary information as well as our patient intake form that we just submitted to Children's Hospital. And we can then click into there and now see all the information, and you can keep drilling down as finite a detail as you need. So that really ties up the getting started with TrackVia and standing out these applications. So using multiple methods of getting started, right? So we used both fast track as well as showing Excel imports to create just a simple patient intake application in just 30 minutes. So with that, I will now open the floor up for any questions that we may have. So one of the questions that we received is, how do you do integrations? Well, basically what we have is, I showed you that API access before. So we do have a bidirectional API in which, if you have a technical background, right, and you can stand out and code these APIs, you can integrate to different softwares and platforms. We also partner with a third party called Workato, and they are basically also a low-code tool that is used to stand out integrations in the same way that we stood out this application today, with no codes and just drag and drop functionality and features. So again, you know, we keep it pretty open, so we're not siloing data, right? TrackVia is also seen as that enterprise gap filler because we want the information to flow. We want that full data oversight. We don't want things getting lost in the turmoil of busy work schedules. We want people notified, right? That's how we get to, you know, North Face from 28 days to 7 days, you know? So with that, I don't believe we've received any more questions. All right, well, I will go ahead and tie this up then. Just want to say thank you guys again for sitting with me on this webinar. If you have any other questions, you know, feel free to reach out to us. Just a few final notes here. An email with a recording of this webinar will be sent to you within 48 hours, and we definitely value our feedback. So shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, but feel free to fill out this short survey. And then again, if you would like more immediate information, or if you'd just like to sit down with me in your trial environment and we can see what help you need, and I can assist you with building out a workflow and a process of your own for your own organization, please feel free to email me at logan.copass@trackvia.com. And with that, thank you, everybody.